Welcome to Engineer Muscle Podcast number 16, guys. Today I have a very special guest, Mr. Mike Zeller. Mike is a really good friend and a mentor, and he does a lot of things. The reason I have him on this podcast, generally we bring on guests who people like William Grazioni, people like Brian Costa, the fitness guys. But this podcast, I really wanted, a lot of the audience is personal trainers. And a lot of you are struggling, and you guys message us about it. And really wanted to bring on someone who actually understands business, entrepreneurship, and can just relate to you on a different level. So, Mike, it's great to have you.
Glad to be here, brother. Excited.
I love it. So, Mike, why don't you tell us a little bit about how did your entrepreneurship journey started?
Yeah, it really began while I was living in LA. I was actually interning at a church called Mosaic at the time. And I realized, man, I'm really meant to be in the marketplace, meant to create a business. And so I started at that time, I started network marketing. Prepaid legal was what I was selling, and then evolved into, moved to Nashville and got into real estate, started selling real estate and being my own self-employed, entrepreneur. That was my first time I hit six figures, was in real estate in my late 20s, 27 or 28. And then just, 3 years into that, I realized, man, if this is all I do, and I felt like I had mastered the real estate game reasonably so after 3 years. And I was like, if this is all I do, my soul's going to die. I'm meant to do something more. And so I went away. I had a goal inspired by the 4-hour work week to have my first mini sabbatical. I went to Buenos Aires, Argentina for about 6 weeks and had to unplug from work entirely, did not turn on my cell phone, did not check my email except I think the first week. And while I was there, the very last week, within the last few days, I was in a McDonald's McCafe of all places. And one of the few times I went to a non-Argentinian place. And I was in this McCafe, which they're actually pretty nice. They have these little gourmet, cookies and stuff. And I had this aha moment that I was searching for. That's why I was there. It's like, you know what? As long as I'm the engine of my business, I'm going to get tired. So I need to design the engine that is not dependent on me. So I came back and I started experimenting with ideas. I started all natural vending machine business. Then the next year, then I started a breakthrough life coaching and business coaching business. Then I started a socially minded car dealership, where I was designed to be out of the operations of the business, at least at a certain point, once I got the business to a certain point. And I just started experimenting. How do I intentionally design a business that will grow and run without me being super active in it? It's like, how do I leverage my ability to design? So that's how it began. And then I kept on evolving, starting men's clothing line to a sustainable fashion line to a digital marketing agency that is now a creative agency to masterminds, coaching other entrepreneurs. All together, I've started like 12 or 13 different ventures in real estate and other entities.
That is big.
Still creating. So, yeah, let's do it.
So, Mike, you brought up some really good points there. So you were talking about how you took a break and went to Argentina, and you realized that you were not enjoying the operations part. You were the creator.
Yeah.
You were the guy that generated ideas. And a lot of personal trainers, when they start their business, they struggle with that because they're coaching clients. They're the salespeople. They're the marketing. They're producing content every single day. And a lot of them burn out. What advice do you have for them?
If you are burning out, then you're also, that tells me that you've also probably bought into the hustle and grind myth that is, popularized by guys like Gary Vee and others. And I do believe there's seasons of your life and your business that you have to hustle and grind, but I think, or that it helps. Like the business is critically needs your help and support. But there's so many other seasons that do not need the hustle and grind. But because we're conditioned to do that, we feel like our solution, especially if we grew up middle class.
Yeah.
I like to talk a lot about, hey, we've got to escape the middle class mindset. It's something I'm continually working on and shifting and processing. And the middle class mindset is like this concept of trading time for money and working, 40 hours a week or whatever it may be. And also that the solution is work hard.
Yeah.
I know so many people that don't work that hard anymore that make great money. And, I like to work. I like to create. That's a joy for me. That's my purpose. But I'm seeking and I'm evolving and creating pathways for me that, you know what, if I need to stop working to creatively renew, because when there's an overabundance of something, like what are some of the most valuable minerals in the world? Diamonds. But why are diamonds valuable?
There's less of them.
Because the De Beers Corporation has created artificial scarcity in the marketplace. There's actually plenty of diamonds, but why do they own all the diamond mines? As many of them as possible. So they can control the flow. So they can create scarcity. Because they know if something is scarce, it becomes more valuable.
Right.
So what if I only had 20 hours to work? What if I only had 4 hours, like Tim Ferriss's experiment? I have two of my buddies that have, one of them, his company is worth about $50 million right now. Another one is worth probably around $250, $300 million right now. And both of them, in their highest growth rate of the company's history, they were suffering for over a year with the debilitating, as the founder, they were suffering with a debilitating physical ailment. One was a bad back. The other was this mold infection in his body.
Mm-hmm.
And they could work a handful of hours a day, like 2 hours a day.
And they were making that much money.
And the business was going up. It was all right, because they were doing what was the scarcity of time and compression of time forced them to realize, man, I've got to work less. What are the few critical things that I've got to do? And then what do I need to outsource? What I need to get off my plate? So that it forced them to identify their highest and best use of time. And that's one of the things like I love to take entrepreneurs through, is how do we identify that $10,000 an hour type time, that $1,000 an hour type time? When you figure that out and you do more and more of that, guess what? Your business takes off.
That is so big. So we touched on a couple of things there. The first one being the hustle and grind. Mm-hmm. And I think like from the beginning, you're right. There's time and place for it, but a lot of people get addicted to it.
Yeah.
I was one of those people. And even now, like sometimes I dedicate a whole day to work. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, what am I working on?
Yeah.
Like you look at the results and I'm like, results? Like I didn't enroll a single client that day. I didn't really create anything for my business, but I just went there for work.
Yeah.
I was working the whole time at startups. What was I working on? And a lot of time you end up working on things that aren't the best use of your time because you have to work. You're not going out on Friday nights because broke people go out on Friday nights, right? You have all these like the entrepreneur, you're playing entrepreneur the whole time.
Yeah.
Versus being a real entrepreneur and actually building a business. So for you, what is it that you teach your clients or your folks that in the beginning, what should they do? Like get into the hustle grind or get it all done, get the ball rolling and then start handing things off? Or
I went to Funnel Hacking Live over the weekend. This guy, Byron Golden, said something really profound. He said your most expensive challenge is that you don't know how to make $1 million. Like that's
say that again.
Your biggest liability is that you don't know how to make $1 million. So the first thing that I think that we need to revalue and reprioritize is personal growth. And if I look at the history of the people that I know, like I just got a text from my buddy Mark Howard, who's killing it in his dental practice. And he just signed up for Tony Robbins' Platinum Partnership Group, and it's a significant commitment, a high, nearly 6-figure commitment. I've done it before, 2 years, and they're like shifted my mindset, my energy, my tribe, my new state of norm, right? New state of normal, and so I think the biggest things that I see creators, entrepreneurs, salespeople, fitness trainers. You need to get yourself, get your mindset right, get your tribe right, because your tribe becomes your vibe, and then get your offer right. You get those 3 things dialed in, guess what? Now you've got momentum. You're in, and so let's talk about, do you want me to talk about the 3?
Please do.
Right. So mindset. Am I living out of a scarcity mindset, or am I living out of abundance? Am I living out of a resourceful mindset or a limitation mindset?
This is a 1959.
Sweetie?
So Mike, you bring up some really good points, especially with the vibe you're with, positive mindset. The second one was your tribe, and third one was offer. And I think and this is funny. A lot of my friends, since I'm in the fitness industry, I've been in the high ticket fitness industry for 2 years now. And a lot of people are joining. There are a lot of business coaches nowadays, like a lot. It's almost to a point where it feels like everyone's trying to pitch you things.
Mm-hmm.
And what's crazy is that a lot of people join masterminds without really knowing what they actually need out of them. They hire a business coach, they drop 5K, 10K, and that doesn't solve their problem, or they end up, not executing fully.
Mm-hmm.
They don't get results, and then they're forever traumatized by that investment.
Yeah.
So when you talk about when you're looking to make an investment into yourself, how do you actually what do you look at your business and be like, is my offer the sucky part, or is it my environment that sucks right now, or how do you actually justify?
So I look, the question I've been asking people a lot lately, especially in my mastermind, is how do I design the environment where success is inevitable, whatever that looks like for me.
Wow.
Right? So if I design design everything about my life, my personal life, my habits, my routines, my friends, the people I hang out with, where I'm just naturally like a ship in a harbor. If the tide is rising, it doesn't have to strain to rise.
Right.
It just automatically rises. So that's what I think. I've had over 135 mastermind applications, and another dozen plus hot seat applications, and then other surveys, or another 20 to 30 other surveys that I've 20 question type surveys that I've done with entrepreneurs. And the pattern that I've seen, especially if an entrepreneur is making less than 6 figures, one of the 3, if not all 3 or multiple of them, are off. And I think the number one side, it's hard to say which one's the most important, but frankly, if you don't have the right mindset, you're not going to take actions on investing in and investing wisely, right? And I've made mistakes in personal development and investing in things.
Right.
There's only 2 programs that I really regret investing in, but the other 78 that I'm investing in, I don't regret investing. Right. And then frankly, one-on-one coaching has its place, and it's really effective in the right environments. But you can get a lot of those results that you want in one-on-one, but a massive expansion in your tribe, a massive expansion in your peer group, and a massive identity expansion when you're in a mastermind or some sort of in-person experience that is ongoing, where you see those people again. I believe in the one-off retreats, the one-off masterminds, but frankly, I don't consider a one-time experience really a mastermind, because it ends.
Right.
Part of the impact of the mastermind is, I know I'm going to see Mo again. I know I'm going to see Brian again.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to show up and not have done anything.
Yeah, accountability.
So the inherent unconscious accountability. And then also there's the power of, if I know you better than, if I spend a weekend with you, I spend 3 days with you, and I get to know you, then I do that again, and I do that again, and I do that again. Guess what? Now I can speak into your life at a deeper level,
right,
and speak belief over you. You can speak into your potential that I could not if I just saw you once, or if I was just on a Zoom call. Because I didn't have that intimacy. That's why I love the things that have impacted me the most, and that's why I created my own. The things that I've seen impact people the most are the continuation experiences and getting beyond the virtual. like I was talking with some other people, like a lot of applications I've gotten for the hot seats. A lot of people have been in these virtual coaching groups that are better than nothing. Okay, so I'm not knocking it. And if that's the best you can do at the time, but like one of the girls that I was in talked to today, she spent $14,000 on a virtual coaching group with James Wetmore, but there's like 200 other people in the group, and her peer group is basically the same stuff. Yeah, because she's not in person. Yeah. Gotta get in person. I highly value those in-person experiences. Those are where the transformative, dramatic shifts happen, because you shift your emotional identity too when someone speaks into your life.
I love that. So like when you say like real in-person masterminds, do you mean like let's say like someone lives in Nashville or someone lives in LA, should they buy into a mastermind in Toronto, or should they like,
if that is the best mastermind for them and what they're trying to grow in, and they have to fly, heck yeah. I mean, I got someone in Barcelona, and I got 3 people in Vancouver in line. I've got a girl in Israel in one of my programs. She's gonna fly. I'll fly.
That's big. And whenever you fly, it's like a mental, like that whole flight experience, you're already transforming, it feels like.
Yeah. And what happens too when you think about this, all right, in your hometown, wherever you're at, who are the cream of the crop people that you hang out with, that you're connected with? All right. Now, if you have a higher commitment, now it's a domestic trip. Oh, and then if you add in even international trip, like one of the masterminds I would love to be in someday. I want to be in. I'm not saying would love, because that's a weak ass word. I want to be invited to the Davos Forum at some point. That is like, that's where Bill Gates goes. That's where Buffett goes. That's where the world's leading thinkers, movers, shakers. And it's whatever. Who knows how much it is? $10,000 at least. It really should. It could be 30. These guys don't care. It could be 30,000. Right. It's invite only. It's a super select group. I want to be in that. I want to. And guess it's in Switzerland. People from all over the world flying in. Who cares? Right.
I love that. No, that's the stuff I think about a lot, especially like we were talking about earlier, how when you were doing real estate and you were feeling that if I just do this, my soul is going to die. I need to do something more. Yeah. I've felt that way a lot in my life in like various different areas. Like when I was in corporate America, still I am. But when I started in corporate America, I was like, this isn't enough. I would die if I just do this. And then I got into fitness. And I just love that example you shared with Davos, like that mastermind with, the biggest movers and thinkers, because I see that stuff on TV and I genuinely feel like I belong there. I'm like, I just missed the invite. Like I was supposed to be there. And so how do you stay charged up all day how do you get into that state where you are the leading person? Because you run, and funny thing is you run multiple businesses. And whereas, let's do a little comparison, right? So someone who's just starting, our audience, our personal trainers who are just getting into this online coaching scene, and they're charging $1,500 for 3 months kind of packages. They feel very overwhelmed a lot of the time because they're doing multiple tasks. But you, on the other hand, how do you overcome that? Because you actually run multiple businesses.
Yeah, I'd say first thing, I can still feel overwhelmed at times, and I look at like administrative stuff. There's so much administrative stuff, so that's usually one of the first things that we need to release and let go of. And it's honestly, it's usually something that's very affordable to find someone to do for you. A good bookkeeper, handle your payroll, your bookkeeping, your accounting, all that is $25 to $40 an hour in most parts of the country. Personal assistant, you can get one for $15 to $20 an hour. If you want a virtual assistant, that's anywhere from $7 to $20 an hour. So you start figuring out what are the lowest earning activities that I do that I can quickly outsource that buy back time.
Yeah.
Why do some people pay $100,000 for certain masterminds, for example. What you got to think, even if I'm not at that level, how can I start thinking like that for me and my level, right? So people living with a greater wealth mindset, they buy time. So they buy time with convenience, speed. They do TSA pre-check. They do global entry. They do clear. They do, how can I buy someone else to do this for me? My laundry, my food, my dog care, my child care, my even cars. Like, that's part of the reason I made a decision. I'm not going to own a car for a season at least, because I'm going to buy back that time. I can relax while I'm riding an Uber. I don't need a ridiculous car payment. I don't need an amazing car. I've had amazing cars, but now I just bought hours in every single week. About, like, depending on where I'm at. If I'm in LA, I just bought myself, 2 to 3 hours a day that I don't have to worry about. That's a $20 an hour activity.
Mm-hmm.
Driving. Why the heck do I need to drive?
Yeah. And like sitting in the back seat. So I moved to LA 7 months ago, and for the first 4 months I didn't have a car, so I would Uber everywhere. And towards the end I started really enjoying it.
Yeah.
Because it was like, to get to West Hollywood from Marina Del Rey, for example, is like a 40-minute with traffic.
Mm-hmm.
You just sit in the back and hotspot your computer, and you can get a lot more work done that way. And it just puts you in that zone because the car is moving. Mm-hmm. So your brain starts thinking that way versus just sitting at one place. Mm-hmm. I tend to not be as go-getter. But for you, so just like low-hanging fruits, all those things, that low-income producing activities. Yeah. Is that how you prioritize what gets on your schedule?
Yeah. Like, so for example, I'm looking at my most valuable activities right now are, and I'll give you an example for a fitness trainer. Like, the first thing you need to do is develop a specialized knowledge in something that, experts are paid disproportionately more. One of my earliest mentors, I went to a seminar right before finals. Actually, it was during finals week, my junior year of college. Brian Tracy's seminar.
Oh, wow.
And he said, you know what? Experts get paid, like the top 1 or 2% make sometimes 97% of income. Mm-hmm. I'm like, all right, that's something I should pay attention to. So how do I figure out this game of being an expert at something? And he said, hey, sales is one of the lowest paying easy work and the highest paying hard work. And so there's an angle of, if I become an expert in sales, I'm pretty much guaranteed, X number of thousands of dollars a year. So that was the first skill that I became an expert in. And he said the key requisite to become an expert in something is to read 36 books in that subject, and you'll become an expert. So I was like, that's great. So that's 1 book a month is what he was giving an example. I was like, I'm not waiting 3 years. I'm going to finish in a year. So I started reading a book a week while I was in college and just making it a must. Like, I would not go to bed unless it'd be 1 a.m. and read a leadership book or read a sales book or read whatever book I was reading, and read a chapter, or two. And I would actually keep track of all the books I read over that time period. And now I can say I'm an expert in sales, I'm an expert in marketing, an expert in entrepreneurship, expert in leadership, expert in relationships, expert in human psychology, expert in what else? Religion, spirituality. I've got all these things.
Take us to church, Mike.
Yeah.
No, I love that. So that's actually, I've never heard that. So you know how they say you need 10,000 hours to be an expert or something? I never believed that.
Yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, you don't.
Because I realized, like, and a lot of personal trainers watching or listening, they will relate to this because they get into fitness and then they see all these people with 20 years of experience charging less than them. Yeah. And these personal trainers, these fitness coaches start thinking that I'm not worth that much. Yeah. Look at that guy. He's charging this much and he has this much more experience than me. But these guys actually know their stuff too. Mm-hmm. So they think that they don't have the 10,000 hours yet. But you were saying that 36 books.
Yeah. Then you become an expert. Now, there's a mental knowledge and an emotional muscle knowledge. Yeah. Right? So I think there is practical experience. But I think you can shave that 10,000, hours that Malcolm Gladwell talked about down to 1,000 with advanced coaching. And that's where, and identity shifts, because often it's not so much that you need the 10,000 hours. It's just, what does it take the normal person to get to the mental identity shift to where they are an expert? And so that's the value of hiring a coach. Like if you're a fitness coach, that's one of the things. People are buying your expertise. If you're hiring a business coach, if you're joining a mastermind, you're actually, if it's effective and it's really good for you, for where you're at, it's like you're buying years. You're pulling the future forward, and you're saying, you know what, I'm going to learn. This guy has spent $100,000 and 20,000 hours learning this. Like I can say I've spent 20,000 hours studying this game of business. And I love it, right? I want to master the great game of business. So people can buy what I've learned and advance their knowledge, shave years off their life by joining one of my programs. They can buy years off their life in terms of figuring out fat loss, right? By joining your program, or by
hiring the daddy of fat
loss.
Yeah,
exactly, right? So they could, like, how many years have you studied this?
5+.
5+.
Yeah.
If I want to learn, I'm stay right at about 9 or 10% body fat, so I'm pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how to get to 6 if I really want to, but I don't want to. I'm not going to eat that clean. But if I'm struggling with that, I can't figure it out, dude. Yeah. Why try for 2 years on my own?
Exactly, and I think that's the more high performers like yourself that I hang out with, the more I realize that they are willing to ask for help. Like, guys, it's not about the ego, right? So if your business is struggling right now, most likely you need someone who's already done it to kind of show you the way. And a lot of time we try to figure everything out on our own, because that's what we've been told, the hustle and grind, and you will figure it out on your own, and you don't.
No.
Like, you really don't, because then I'm so glad I've made investments in myself and business that, looking back, I'm like, I didn't really get the ROI I was looking for, but it gave me a different type of ROI. It was the identity shift. It was the network. I tapped into the networks I never would have tapped into before. And it just subconsciously elevated me. And what's funny is that the friends I went to college with even look at me differently now, in a higher pedestal, right? Because, like, the person who I wasn't the kid who is doing the stuff I do now if I didn't make those investments.
100%.
Like, the first time I ever, actually it's funny, the first time I ever invested in myself after college was in a fitness coach. And he was like, I already had 2 years of solid fitness experience, but I wanted to get on stage. So I was like, who can I hire? And I had this one guy in mind, Derek Charleboy. Derek charged me like $300. It was like a really friendly, discounted price. And I remember thinking, that's a lot. I was like, I'm going to do it anyway, because I know I can't do it on my own. I've never done it. And Derek showed me the way. And, like, now, after coming out of that, I was so confident.
Yeah.
And then I did that with business. And now, Mike, like, my question to you, this is something that when I go to conferences, I get a lot. And that is, like, a lot of personal trainers, they're great at what they do, but something is not clicking. The money isn't coming in. Sales aren't being closed. Leads aren't coming in. And they just panic, and they're like, in their mind, they think like they should hire someone, they should do this. But like, I asked them 2 questions, and I'm like, so what is it that you really need right now? And a lot of them can't answer it. So, like, in your mind, is it better to just like, have you ever done it, I guess, where you just take a day off and just diagnose your own business, where you're like, 100%. What is it that's wrong right now?
Yeah, like self-reflection, why is the book called Think and Grow Rich? Not Act and Grow Rich, right? Because acting, like, if you are just running as hard as you can and you're not getting the results you need, something's off, right? You got to shift something. And if I look at the people that are most effective, they're also really thoughtful about thinking through their business. And if I look at my biggest mistakes, I had 3 businesses that have lost over $100,000 in a single year on it. I didn't think through the business as well as I should have. I didn't think through the business model. I didn't think, I was a flurry of action and not enough thinking. And Now I'm a little more mature as a business owner and entrepreneur, but I'm making better decisions because I'm thinking through it more. And now I have great muscle memory on, I learned some of those painful things. I'm looking, oh, that was a low margin activity. And now let's design a higher margin activity, and I've focus a lot more in my zone of genius. And this will be my most profitable year ever. And I have a clear pathway, as we talked, to really triple my revenue by, I guess, 2021.
I love that.
It's there for me. It's like I just have to reach out and grab it. My identity is there. The strategy is there. The understanding of who I need on my team, the understanding of what my zone of genius is, and my offers. I know what offers. I've got one offer that is incredible for my top 4% client, and then I've got other offers that are hitting my top 20%, and then now I've got a supplemental business that's going to be launching right around those people as well. The audience that I love to serve. I'm having fun doing it. It's not. This is not a pain in the ass to hang out with you and to talk about this. This is what juices me.
Exactly. No, I love that. Let's talk. Tell me a little bit more about that. How do you? So this is really good. And you and I talked about this earlier. So how we were talking about one offer can make the difference for a lot of people listening. Yeah. One good offer, and a lot of the time. So imagine this, right? A lot of the time fitness trainers start their business. They live, they're out of college or they're around their same circle of friends, and they get into high ticket and they only have one high ticket offer. They get on a few sales calls and people are like, oh, that's too expensive. Mm-hmm. They get discouraged. And then their first thing is lowering the price and going low ticket. And then they don't feel fulfilled there, because I actually done that where I went low ticket, had a lot of volume, and I started burning out. Like, this isn't fun either. So when you're talking about like the 4% and then the 20%, is that different offers, or is that different offers for different people?
Yeah. So a fundamental principle of life, and it was discovered by this philosopher named Wilfred Pareto. That's where the Pareto principle comes into play, or otherwise known as the 80-20 rule.
Oh,
yeah,
got it. That's something people have heard of.
Yeah. So in older books, they call it the Pareto principle. Richard Koch wrote the book 80-20. And then another guy, Perry Marshall, wrote 80-20 Sales and Marketing, which is a phenomenal book, by the way. So the principle is this, that 80% of your results comes from 20% of your efforts, or 80% of your income comes from 20% of your customers or clients. And the issue is that you were talking about is so many of us go for, all right, if 20% of our clients produce 80%, but we're often taught, a lot of people, especially in the fitness space that I've been interacting with and coaching, they're going after that $197 or $97 or $297 as their higher ticket. Like I had a girl in my fitness program, Erin Diamond, in my mastermind. She's in my mastermind, just renewed for the second year. Her highest offer when she joined my mastermind was $300 a month. Yeah. Now she had a volume of people in it, and she was making a good multiple six-figure income. Guess what? I was like, Erin, why the heck are you just going after freaking low ticket? There's a whole ocean above that it won't be nearly as many people, but you've got this platform, you've got this knowledge, they'll pay you disproportionately for more touch. Her and her boyfriend Jordan just about tripled their income last year. Was shifting towards the towards the top 20%. Mm-hmm. And I think they're dialing in to the 4%. Now the 4%, let me explain that. So this 80-20 principle applies throughout nature. Like Wilfred Pareto, he lived in the 1700s or 1600s, if I remember. And he identified that in nature, it can be a cropland, a farm. 20% of the croplands would produce 80% of the crops. Things like that. 20% of the businesses would produce 80% of the taxes. Things like that, right? And that this principle applied throughout life. But then, what if no one, until I read Perry Marshall's 80-20 Sales and Marketing, no one had explained what if that is true again at another layer, which is what's the top 4%? Meaning top 20% of the top 20% is 4%. Well, what if that top 20% of the top 20% is capable of producing 80% of 80%, which is, let me explain it simply. 4% produces 64% of your revenue. So how many people actually have an offer designed around their 4%? And when you do, guess what? Like I have a buddy. He literally has 4 people. He teaches heart-centered coaching. Mm-hmm. That's pretty nebulous, right? Like what the heck is that? Right. But he charges $250,000 per person for his King of Hearts group, and he has 4 people. So he makes $1 million a year from 4 people. Now he's identified, and he's got, all right, so that I like to talk about, you got sweet spots of where is my unique ability or my specialized skill, where are my relationships, where are my life experiences, and where are my passions and my values. And the intersection of all those 4 things is the bullseye. Bullseye is kind of your sweet spot of life, right? If you get drilled in that, I'm teaching my mastermind members that and other group coaching members that, if I get drilled in on my sweet spot, that's where I have fun. And that's where I make a lot of money and add a disproportionate amount of impact and revenue and fun. That's where it's easy, lucrative, and fun.
I think that just gave me an identity shift.
Good. That's what I'm about. Yeah.
No, especially because if you think about it, the 4%, and any business, like 20% of my clients make me the 80% of money. That's just true. Mm-hmm. And it just makes you think, because like then you're not worried about spending 24 hours working. No. Then you're not worried about like saying no to your friends because you're busy hustling. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, and that way of thinking actually takes a lot of pressure off you, because it gives you that room to do some thinking. Yeah. To do like what? So let's talk about offers, right? What kind of offers? How do you create that offer that those 4% are looking for? Like, what is the mindset going into that?
So the first thing I say, get really great offers. Really identify what I would call the bleeding neck. Imagine your neck is bleeding, and if you don't stop it, you die. That's serious shit. You better get that taken care of, right? Right? You're not only ready to pay. It's a must. I must make a decision. I must find help. I must. So you got to figure out where is it a must, and where do people actually have the affordability that they can actually afford what you offer and what you charge. Okay, so it starts there. Do they have the need, a real legitimate need, and can they afford it? So the bleeding neck phenomenon. And then the next piece is, all right, how do I get so close and so aware that I almost speak it in their language? Yeah. So when I first started my mastermind, my Rising Stars mastermind, it was really born out of this idea. I had this good friend of mine that I've mentored for 4 or 5 years, Mike Danner. He's the VP of marketing for Dr. Axe, the #1 natural health website in the world. And Mike, when I met Mike, as we got to know each other and I started mentoring him some, he started asking Mike, where do I go to learn? Is there a group for guys like me? And he at the time was like 25. Okay. I was like, yeah. I was like, Mike, and I had been to a bunch of different masterminds. I knew about Joe Polish's Genius Network, Dan Sullivan's Strategic Coach, Platinum Partnership. I was in Platinum Partnership with Tony Robbins at the time. I knew of all these different groups. But what I felt like was missing was something targeted towards kind of the high achievers in the mid-20s to like early 40s. And I felt like because most of the people in Strategic Coach and Genius Network and all that, Platinum Partnership and these other groups I've been a part of, they were 40 and above. Okay. For me to sneak in as a 33-year-old at the time, that was an outlier. I was an aberration. I was like, and plus they were prohibitively expensive. Mike was making 6 figures then. He was not making he had a salary. And I was like, all right, so through conversations, I'm like, all right, I identified he had a real need.
Yeah.
So I asked him a few questions. I got to know, I asked him a lot of questions, frankly. I probably asked, I'll ask him who I think is my ideal prospect. I'll have 10 to 15 questions. I'll probe and unpeel the layers, because selling at its highest level is serving. And when I know your needs so much, then now I'm just matching what you want with what I offer. I'm not manipulating you into it, right? So then by the time I approached Mike with this idea of this mastermind, targeted for him, so like, Mike, whatever you think I need, because I had such trust with him, he's like, Mike, I'd already impacted his life, and he knew that I cared about him. And he's like, Mike, whatever you think I need, I'm in. Just tell me how much it is, and I'll take care of it. And he signed up, like, right there. And then, boom, I had my close rate on my first round of masterminds. I had one person, or actually two people signed up 42 days before my first weekend. I was like, oh crap, what am I going to do? I can't just refund the money. I don't want to refund. Like, these people need this life change. The first two people that signed up, Mike was my third one. And finally I got off my rump and called Mike up and called up all these other people. And 75% of the people that I called up closed, because I had such trust. I had met the need with the I had met the need with the offer. So if you don't have clarity on your right offer, go a lot deeper in identifying what your clients want and need. So ask great questions, whoever you think. And my challenge to a lot of entrepreneurs is find at least 5, if not 10 ideal prospects, and just go deep and ask them what their need is. Take them out to lunch, get on a phone call, whatever you need to do. Get closer to your client, and then you're selling out of service, not out of you trying to sell them something they don't want or need.
That was big. I totally agree. And I think like a lot of people don't spend enough time with their current clients. Like I have, for example, 2 clients come to mind that are my ideal clients. And actually 3 now. And it's so much fun and it's so easy to work with them.
Yeah.
And what's crazy is that like lately, and I'll be transparent because these guys, they actually get the firsthand. So our podcast is called Engineered Muscle. So we talk about theory, but we also love talking about practice. Because we think that real like breakthroughs happen when they both combine theory and practice. And with these guys, like our audience, we love telling them how it is. And like a few weeks ago, I really felt burned out, Mike. It was weird. I've never felt that. I felt that way in college, but college is college. I was studying engineering and 20 credits and just a lot of work. But now I hadn't felt that way. And I would literally, like, we were working on building a webinar. And I just like, I was like, my marketing guys told me what to do, and I just couldn't get myself to do it. And I would wake up in the morning and it would just be like, I'd do my morning routine and gratitude and all that. And I would just feel like, I knew I wasn't going to do it that day because mental energy was not there. And I was like, it felt even worse because I was like, with this energy, I can't even close a client. I can't even enroll a client. What is going on? And I talked to one of my friends, and she's a real estate guru in Toronto. And she's like, my friend, you burned out. And I was like, fascinating. And we just kept like, he asked me a few more questions and realized that some of my clients weren't my ideal clients. Like what was happening was, and this hit me hard because I never want to do things I don't like doing. So even for my work, even for my business, I love doing things I love that just happen. I used to be so excited about client check-ins, right? When on like Sundays when the clients send me their progress pictures, I used to love that. And like 4 weeks ago, I just kept putting it off. I would go to the gym in the morning and like around noon I would start. And then I would just like kept putting it off. And then but those 3 clients, I would just take care of that the first thing. And those other headaches I didn't want to take care of. So it was just fascinating to have that hit me, especially at like that early in the business career, where I realized that like the client, because what happens a lot of the time, and correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of people who are beginners, or especially on sales calls, their biggest disappointment is not closing a deal, not enrolling a client. Now, my biggest disappointment is enrolling a client who wasn't a good fit.
It's good.
That hurts, man. Like when you enroll someone who's not a good fit, and then they are not committed. So
Yeah.
no matter how much support you give them, they're not going to get results. That a lot of you personal trainers realize that. Like, did you ever have that?
Yeah. And I've made mistakes in that, but really, I'd say less than 5% of the time I've made a mistake in that. I've done quite well in general, but it's just part of the game.
I love it. And like your application process. Let's talk about that, right? So if we talk about, a lot of trainers are going towards Facebook marketing now, Facebook ads, because it feels scalable. It feels like, because the old school method is just pump out so much content.
Yeah.
Just like, and these guys get tired of like pushing out content, and the only person who likes those long posts is their mom and their friend from high school, right?
Yeah.
And they get discouraged. They're like, I'm putting out 7 content copies a week or day, and nothing is happening. So they go towards Facebook ads. And one of the first things I noticed in Facebook ads was quality leads and cost per lead, right? And you do a really good job, especially with your application process, where you ask some really deep questions in there. Like, I remember going through it and realizing that, damn, like, this is like, I need some coffee to answer these questions. Like, there were some deep questions, and they were good. And a lot of the time, I think a lot of trainers, they don't have a very good vetting process. And so how do you personally, because I feel like if your application process was easier, you might get more people come through the funnel.
Yeah.
What's the thinking behind that?
The thinking behind it is I use it as a pre-qualification process. And I want to understand. It goes down to understanding who my audience is. Like, I can legitimately say that I have a deeper understanding of the entrepreneur from the 50 to 250K range better than most anybody in the country. Like, there's probably a handful of people that really, really gets that marketplace. One, because I've studied this relentlessly, because I've engaged in conversation, because I've got thoughtful, the mastermind questionnaires that have 7 or 8 questions or whatever, and it's basically, there's 6 questions, and it's just how can I understand someone deeply and solve their problem or challenge if I don't understand it? And so I use it, and then it also esteems me at a different level. If they go through that, 1, I know they're more committed. 2, they know that I'm committed, that I'm actually not just your normal entrepreneur, coach, whatever. And so I'm automatically positioned in the sales process. You have to, one of the key things, 3 things you have to do: connect with empathy. You have to feel like you care about them, that you understand them. Number 2, impart, or number 2 is establish authority. So they have to recognize me as an authority figure. Like, for example, I will often say in my mastermind reviews, hey, I've done X number of businesses. My businesses have generated over 300 million in sales. I've mentored over X number, 100 entrepreneurs, whatever. Consulted these companies. And these, if I know they're in the fitness world, then I'll say, all right, I've mentored and coached Brian DaCosta, Amanda Bucci, boom, boom, boom. I'll list out a few people that are relevant for their audience. If they're in a different world, then I list that, right? Because I know, all right, now, and the reason you got to do that, it's not like, it's to understand human psychology. And if I know I can help you, but you don't know that I can help you, and you don't trust me, and I care enough about helping you, then I need to be sure that I establish authority. I screw up. I dishonor you if I don't do a good enough job in my sales process and establishing my authority and helping you move along the journey, if I can genuinely help you with a product or service. Because one of my mentors, Jay Abrams, says you've got to care enough about your prospect that you're absolutely committed to not selling him any more than you should, and not selling him any less than they should buy. So that's selling with integrity. Now, for me to do that, I have to understand this is where, if you're a fitness coach and you're not getting the results you want in terms of business and revenue and all that, and that tells me you're probably not, and you're a really good trainer. You can make results. and create transformation for your clients? Well, you got to learn the game of business.
Mm-hmm.
Your identity has to shift. You are an entrepreneur who happens to be a fitness coach.
Yes.
All right, your medium is fit. Like my buddy Mark, who runs a multi-million-dollar dentist practice. And I would meet him and I'd say, I'm a dentist. Like we'd hang out the first year. He would always introduce himself as I'm a dentist. Be like, Mark, dude, you're not a freaking dentist. Because I knew he wasn't just a dentist. He didn't even like being a dentist.
Yes.
And I was like, Mark, you're an entrepreneur who owns a dental practice. It sounds like semantics, right? It's actually not. It's big. It's an identity shift.
Uh-huh.
And that's a paradigm shift. And it started creating the mental flexibility and dexterity where he could realize, all right, you know what? Yeah, I am. And then maybe I'm an entrepreneur who also invests in real estate. Maybe I'm an entrepreneur who buys out a dental practice. Maybe I'm an entrepreneur who creates these, like his whole pathway is opening up.
Yeah.
And now he's got a pathway to be in the 8-figure range.
Mm-hmm.
And he's got a pathway to have more freedom. He's got his dental practice down from when I met him. He was in the office at least 4 days a week. Now he's down to 1. And he's not even in the office many of the weeks because he's traveling. He wants to travel he's going to travel at least 10 weeks this year.
That's big for a dentist, yeah.
Yeah.
Really big for a dentist.
Yeah. And because it's a paradigm shift. It's a shift in identity. So I want to challenge each of you guys to listen to the podcast. If you're in business for yourself, you are an entrepreneur. And which means you've got to shift. You're not a fitness coach. You're not a fitness this or that or that. That's the medium. That's a pathway. That's a method that you generate business and you impact the world. Does that make sense?
It totally does. And I think I used to, when I first started traveling after college, people would ask me, what do you do? And I was an engineer.
Yeah.
Every time I would just slip out. And that continued to happen for a year. Yeah. Even though sometimes I was going to conferences for fitness coaching, but someone would ask me on the plane, what do you do?
Yeah.
Engineer would still slip out. And then I realized, I'm like, I don't spend any time doing real engineering work anymore. I went to school for it.
Yeah.
Got a degree in it, but that's it.
Yeah.
My real identity is I'm an entrepreneur who sells fitness.
Yeah.
Or who owns
who specializes in fitness coaching.
Exactly.
Fat loss.
Exactly. And that is so big. For those of you listening, really ask yourself that. Because no one else can convince you what you are. You got to do some deep work and really figure that out. So Mike, you were actually talking about building that authority.
Mm-hmm. And the third thing I forgot on the sales process. So you got to connect with empathy, establish authority, and the third is impart belief.
Ooh.
Because we all struggle with belief in ourselves, belief in there's internal and external beliefs that we struggle with. If we think the economy is going to crash. Well, I don't know if this is the right time. Well, whatever, right? That's an external belief issue. So a great guide, a great mentor, imparts belief, helps them see that you can do this. You've got this in you. I got to sit down with another fitness entrepreneur today, and I was like, she made 40 grand in the last 90 days. I'm like, Brittany, you've got if you get your tribe right, your mindset right, and your offer, you're really close on all three. Well, actually, she wasn't that close on her tribe, but she's $250,000. Few shifts. I don't know enough about your business yet, but we'll probably talk about it over dinner. A few shifts.
No, and I love that because it's always the little things that change, that create big changes, especially in fitness, because that's the area I know best. I can look at a lot of the time I can look at someone's physique and tell you what kind of macros they're on, what kind of diet they're on. Or I can look at someone they're lifting and they're I plateau. I literally tell people, show me the numbers.
Yeah.
I can break your plateaus. Yeah. And I think that's the power of specializing in something. Specialize doing the work and really and for you've done enough work in business. You've been around enough entrepreneurs. You've coached enough people that you can actually boom.
Yeah.
That's it.
I see enough patterns. I've got my hours in. I've got my knowledge in. It's not as much about the hours. It's about the muscle memory.
Yeah. Yeah. And for you, I guess right now, you mentioned Jay Abraham. I love that guy. I met him I was at a conference that he spoke at last year, and I came across his stuff. Pretty powerful.
Yeah.
He's all over the place with his industries. So Mike, one of the questions about building authority. So for fitness coaches, they post a lot of content. Like a lot of people post a lot of content. Like our friend Amanda Bucci, she posts a lot of content. I've never figured out what's the actual purpose of putting out content every day.
Well,
like, is there a good reason to post 4 times a day, 3 times a day?
Yeah, I mean that's too much. IG stories, of course, but it's about awareness. Is top of the mind is a key thing in the sales and marketing world. Is like creating that awareness. You don't have to post every day. I post maybe 5 times a week on my IG. I've neglected my Facebook for a while. That's changing. But you have to be at top of the mind. You have to be Scott Oldford talks about, you have to be omnipresent. There's awareness that people have to see, and then it has to be relevant. And then they have to feel like you're hitting them spot on.
Yeah.
Right? So, we figure out those channels where our audience really cares about what we're talking about. And go ahead. Yeah.
No, that's good. And it's funny, talking to you is good because a lot of people are getting a lot of value because we bring on people who are either fitness only, who are sales only, who are marketing only. You're like a little bit of both, if not all. So for you, I guess, like, when should a fitness coach start looking into Facebook ads or start looking into paid advertising?
I think it's generally most of the guys that I would say when you've got an organic offer that works organically, right? Then you can start scaling it and testing out how do I attract and find the right offer. But if you don't have an offer that works, why blow money and send more traffic to it? If people aren't signing up for it right now organically, then they're not going to sign up for it if they're a colder lead. That's a boneheaded decision.
I love that. So offer. So we talked about creating the offer that actually is the irresistible offer. So when creating that, especially in fitness, right? So a lot of people's offer is literally a meal plan, a training program, weekly email check-in, and like a Facebook group.
Yeah.
How do you create an offer that is actually different, that people are like, so how do you process that?
So, I've been talking with a lot of guys in my mastermind groups about this concept of red ocean versus blue ocean. Have you read that book yet? Right.
I haven't, but I've heard so much about it.
So the basic concept is this: in the red ocean is a commodity-driven business.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the guys I did a hot seat with that signed up for my Fast Track to 6 Figures program today, he's been, one of his first comments was, and he's in the fitness coaching to women primarily, and he's like, I know what the marketplace is, blah, blah, blah. I was like, Tony, why compete in the dog-eat-dog world? Figure out this is where discovering your zone of genius and positioning yourself in that niche is so paramount to you actually getting past the $60,000 figure. You figure that out, boom, now you're at 100,000, just like that. And so we walk through that, and then we're going to walk through it in terms of the mastermind or in the group coaching, and when we do the zone of genius, because now you know how to. I'm a business architect. I help people win at business, win at life. That's what I love doing. I help people. I feel like you got to succeed at both. For me, to have a satisfying, fulfilling life, that's my audience. I want high achievers that are humble, hungry, and talented and generous. So if I'm not, what was the question again?
I love that. So blue ocean, red ocean.
Blue ocean, yeah. So in the red ocean, if I am competing where there's the margins,
like the same offers that you created.
So versus, all right, you look at car dealerships, for example, they're a definitive red ocean right now, and their margins are shrinking. They've been shrinking for a decade, or decades really. Versus, let's bounce over to Uber. Who's their competition? They got one other serious competitor, Lyft. That's it. They got 2. How many car dealerships are around the country? How many different car brands? How many different? Right. It's a total red ocean.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and the key differentiating factor is what's the value innovation? How to position my group, my program, what adds differentiated value, and that's at least significantly differentiated from others. And then that's where you charge a premium. I can charge. At my highest client this year is paying me $45,000.
Mm-hmm.
I can do that because I've demonstrated significantly different value than anyone else they met. And they, we went through the blue ocean strategy. We went through a whole bunch of other, things already that they're loving and creating massive shifts in their business. And so you got to figure out what is it that you can value innovate on, that it positions you significantly different. And sometimes it's not just based on your knowledge. Like, for example, in my Fast Track to Six Figures program, I'm going to have guys like Brandon Carter. I'm going to have guys like, maybe I get DeCasa on. Maybe I get Aaron Diamond and Jordan Dugrat. Big fitness people. I got other, I might have Ben Gower will probably teach in that group on sales. So I know all these other people that have genius.
Other expertise.
Yeah, that I get to provide to my group. And it's massive value, and we all love to teach and share our knowledge.
No, I love that. Especially when you can and I do that now, and this has taken a minute. So in the beginning, I coached everybody in fitness. Yeah. And now it's like my zone of genius is guys from 25 to 40.
Yeah.
Busy male professionals who travel and just can't get the belly fat off. Yeah. That's my zone of genius. Like, you give me your tough schedule, I could create meal plans in my head.
Yeah.
But then I really struggled with coaching females. Yeah. I just couldn't relate to that. So now I just outsource that or refer them to my friends. Yeah. And I think a lot of personal trainers need to do that more.
Yeah.
Because you can only really specialize in one or two things.
Yeah.
And if you, a lot of, and what's funny, you talked about it earlier where experts make 98% of the money because they're experts.
Yeah.
Like in fitness, I think very few industries have expertise like fitness, where you have guys who literally just specialize in glutes.
Yeah.
You have guys who literally
the glute guy, the glute girl, whatever.
Brett Contreras, he's the glute guy. He literally helps females gain bigger glutes. And Mike, one of the last questions I want to ask you is, this is more towards business, what does more income mean to you? What does that add to your life? When you were 24, 22, getting out of college, now looking back in that time period, making more money now versus then, what changed?
For me, it gave me more responsibility and more freedom.
Wow.
And I think, I look at my gifts and my platform that's growing and emerging. It's all right, how do I use it for good? To the core of who I am, I want to unleash people's divine potential. So that's central to who I am and how I want to lead my life. So as I increase my income, right? I told you, hey, with Charity Water, I want to give at least $60,000 this year. So, and I want to create more, my wife and I, we're going to be in Barcelona and other places in Europe this summer for 7 weeks. And we'll work remotely. We'll, have fun. We'll have some downtime, playtime. But I want more freedom and I want more impact.
Mm-hmm.
I'm shifting into a phase in my life. I'm turning 40 this year in May, and it's I'm really concerned about. I want to continue to grow my business. I want to grow wealth. I want to pay off debts. I want to do those things. But I want deeper impact. And I know for me, I'm here to call out greatness in others. I'm here to remind others the world desperately needs your greatness. And if you don't step into it, someone will miss out. So the element, often we are not compelled to step into our full greatness unless someone else desperately needs us. So when you write a book, it really shouldn't be for you. It should be for the people you're trying to reach.
Mm-hmm.
When you create a program, I'm creating a podcast later this year. It's not just for me, it's for someone else. When I create a mastermind, initially, my first couple of years, I could have made more money doing something else. It wasn't for me necessarily. It was for Mike Boehner. Mike Boehner is the world. And I was actually taking a pay cut to do it. Now I'll end up making more money doing it, but it was out of contribution. So who can I contribute and serve?
That actually, I started thinking about all the clients that their lives have changed because of me.
Yeah.
And I think like a lot of fitness trainers listening, they've changed lives. But when they make that content, when they launch a product, they think they're asking for money.
Yeah.
This is thinking like what Mike just said, like, it's not for you. It's not about you, really. You're changing lives and you're doing it for the people out there who, and I like to think of like 3 clients come to mind whose lives have been changed because of me. With more confidence, their presentation, like how weird is it that a guy gets 6-pack abs and his presentation skills at work go up?
Yeah. That did confidence. You shifted their energy and what they, him stepping up into more of who he's called to be because of his inner belief and dialogue about himself.
Yeah, and it's like they realize the power of like work ethic and how they can actually, they're in control. And I think a lot of people with fitness, they do that. Like you start lifting some barbells or start lifting some weights, you realize you can actually change your body.
Yeah. Exactly.
And same mentality goes for business.
Yeah.
Same thing, like you can actually like what Mike is saying, like if you listen to this podcast a few times, you'll start, even if you listen to it one time, you'll start seeing some pattern inside of you that, like if you believe in hustle and grind, and what we talked about was like, and hustle and grind isn't working for you, then it's time for some aligned action, right? It's time to do some digging. And I know I need to do it because I do a lot of hustle and grind, and that's all of, known, I feel like. But it was to a point where I was pushing away a lot of people who were just talking about the who as people call it.
Yeah.
And I was like, nah, that's not what it's all about. But you will burn out if you just hustle and grind all the time. But yeah, Mike, this was great.
Awesome, brother. Enjoyed it. Always.
Loved it. And you guys can follow Mike where?
Instagram is Michael R. Zeller. Facebook, my fan page is just Mike Zeller or Michael R. Zeller. But here, I think my friend limit is
and Instagram, he produces a lot of good stuff. So Michael Zeller, I'll tag him into the description here. Just loved having you, brother.
Yeah, enjoyed it. And if any of your listeners are interested in the masterminds or the fast track to 6 figures, let me know to just message me on Instagram or I have it in the bio there as well. So I'd love to connect with you guys and serve however I can.
Guys, Mike is the real deal. Take care.
Thanks, guys.